Alrighty, hello everyone. This is just a short little video I wanted to make exploring a game I just played against Unsweet that I thought was fairly interesting. Um, it was a sixes game with the standard beta rules, so no first-person advantage, mitigating effects or anything. So obviously white has quite a large advantage, but Unsweet's a strong player, and his strength is really mixing things up, and this allows him to present problems, or at least practical problems, for a player like me, who is less aggressive. So let's get this show on the road. A6, A1, C3, C2. And I just decided to keep stretching out in a row and let him decide when he wanted to deviate. And he decided to mirror me, and then after E3, now he plays CD4. And this is a strong move, and essentially the point of his opening play is to prove that my long line on the third row is overextended, right? So imagine I do nothing, whatever, I pass, and he captures on D3. If he gets his cap on D3, then he will still have this line of 3 and a cap to help give him some vertical presence, whereas I will just have this severed line, and he will be much closer to making threats than I will. So it's a good move. I decide to, remain undisturbed, play E2. Point being, if he takes on D3, then I can respond, and well, then I've responded already. Right, E2 has already cut off the line that he's planning on making. So it's more of a defensive move, but also it extends my presence in this vertical row. E1, sort of continuing the line. F2 makes the first tack threat of the game on A3, and it's sort of allowing me to have faster access to F1, right? If I ever need to play F1, if I want a vertical threat, then I'm better suited for that. And just in general, it's always nice to be connected to at least one side on your major threat, because that way you can more easily make threats, right? The F2 square doesn't control a lot of territory in and of itself, but because we have this strong row here, F2 is essential. You'll see later in this game that the problem Unsweet sort of runs into is he has strong central play, but he doesn't have control of either of these two corners, and he's unable to make any major threats. Or at least major threats that I can't parry. So A3, sort of extending, and A4. I was debating between A2 and A4 here. I decided ultimately on A4 because it's slightly more centralized. It will give me more chances for play in this center 3 and 4 rows. And what I didn't like about A2 is that A3 takes A2 would always be lingering in the air. And yes, I have A1 to defend it, but it's often very easy to get attacked on the edges, and these positions can be very hard to defend. And I just didn't want to put A2 in the way where I thought he was very liable to take it in a more opportune situation, that is. If he got some wall support or something where I wouldn't want to take back with A1. So anyway, A4. And now he decides to make a rather committal move. He takes this way. Now, this was logical, though, because, again, A4 extends the attack threat two ways, because I can take on A3, or I can play b4, and that's also something that a2 doesn't quite get. There are a number of different options he had for taking, though. He could take a3, b3, but then I can play b4 or cap b4. So severing me in the center makes the most sense, but a less aggressive option would be to take with the cap, because taking with the cap generally, it doesn't. It's the resulting stack isn't as weak, right? Because this d3 stack is very prone to being attacked. Now, Unsweet realizes this, and his contention would be, look, I've got my cap right here on d4. If you ever try any funny business, I can just, take on d3 on my, take on d3 with my cap, either after you take with a flat or, before in preparation. Like if I were to throw a cap on d2 right now, he would almost certainly do that. D4 down. And I realized this, so I just played standard d2. I didn't think that putting my cap on d2 and then letting him put his cap down. Yes, taking your cap and taking your own flat is a slight concession in terms of flat count. But if he wanted to, he would always be able to throw it left here, and I can show that real quickly if you don't mind me going back 1,000 moves here. This is the only annoying thing about this system. So we're going back to here. Okay, so I played d2, and if instead of that I played cap, he would play this. And I didn't like that my cap was sort of off sides. And always, if I just, try to extend my threat, either c1, b4, something like this, he would always have this move that it sort of reestablishes the flat count. He's down 1, but it's not that big of a deal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, he's down 1. I mean, once I play again. But he hasn't really conceded too much. c3 is weak, yes, but he can always protect it if he has to, which is a slight concession of one tempo. But if nothing else, this cap has a lot of reach, and he could also do something like in response to this, he can run away. Not in this position. In this position, I mean, this is probably the only move. But if we look here, my offense is kind of shattered. And yes, I have this threat, but it's easily parryable. And I don't know, something like this. One, two, three, 4 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sure, but he has reach. Maybe this is a little too extreme going for this, but oh, that's a bad move. Run away this way maybe makes the most sense. But anyway, I thought this might be better for black than what happened in the game. Of course, I very well might have been wrong, but anyway, I didn't really want to go in for that because I felt that the cap on d2 could be misplaced. Might have been the wrong decision, but that was why I did it. So he plays d1, b4. We're both just sort of extending our threats. My threat is somewhat more powerful, and it's because it's more centrally located, and his threat's a little more awkward. But he's also got his cap to jump in whenever he needs it. And he decides right now. He takes on d3. And now his position's it's a little bit of a scary attack for me. I mean, he hasn't quite formed much, right? He doesn't control F1, he doesn't control A2, he doesn't control C1, but he has pressure on all these squares, and this cap could be a monster, so I have to play carefully here. C1 makes attack threat, and we have to remember that his cap is right now pinned from going north-south. It can go east-west, perfectly fine, but if it tries to go north-south, then it could be in trouble. I mean, this line forms. So he plays takes this way, which is it's a bit of a scary move to see because you know the piece here on D1 is not really contributing yet, and now it's in his main formation, so this is more difficult to deal with, but this is also potentially a weakness that I can exploit. Again, he can argue for right now that his cap is defending D2, but that might not always be the case. CD4. This attacks and defends. I thought it was a good time to drop in a cap. You know, it's move 12. And I was never going to put a cap over on any of these squares. So this was always sort of my plan, to put a cap along 4. And it extends this threat and also prevents him from going vertically. So SC4. This move I wasn't so sure about. On one hand, it does sort of sever all of my threats in the immediate future. My counterplay is sort of dead, right? But it also gives me a free tempo to do whatever I want. And with my free tempo, I'm able to dismantle his attack much more easily than I would have if he had immediately played like A2 or something. A2. B1. B1 I also wasn't sure about, but his point is that he is trying to undermine these stones over here so that he can be stronger over here. Not sure if it's such a great move, but it's sensible. And now I drop in this wall here. And this wall is very annoying for Unsweet to deal with. I'm attacking D2 because remember D2 has a white flat underneath it. And this is a problem for black. He could try to run away, but there's not really a useful square to run to. He could like jump on C2, but that's pretty passive. And that's a big concession. Although I thought it might actually be reasonable to run away to C2. Because I never really want to play takes, just because his cap is so close. And if this square becomes juicy enough, he can go ahead and pressure it with his capstone. But, I mean, that might be a bit... I might have been a bit too afraid of this. I don't think it's that strong of a move to move on to C2. It just seems too unprincipled. Then again, though, he's also got this wall that can come down here if he needs it. But it does have a job here. But it's not entirely pinned. Anyway, so he decides to basically ignore this. And I'm able to take on D2, and note that he cannot crush me immediately, even with his hard cap, because if he does, he loses immediately, because I have this formation. If he crushes, then I just win with the capstone. So again, he ignores me, D1. I run away, and D2. He could try, like, putting a wall here, wall D2, to try to attack C2, but that's not really in the spirit of his position. And it doesn't really do a whole lot because I can always just go back and retake c2. And now he's got a wall in the middle of his position where he's trying to make a road. So d2. And here I spent several minutes trying to think of what I could do to stop him from pursuing this threat. Because again, he can always throw this cap over, take c3 and take b3 and pressure this wall, which is what he does. But I decide that that b5 is a useful move anyway, even though I'm fully expecting to lose control of these two tiles, because it's useful in establishing this line here along 5-4, and currently I've got these stones. These stones could be attacked, but I could probably reestablish over here. So that was my idea, and he does indeed do this. Which is attack threat. He's threatening d3. And at this point, I'm a little bit concerned because his threat is coming. It's coming strong, right? This is sort of it's a bit of a do or die moment, especially. I mean, not immediately, but if I misplay this, I could lose very easily if he gets too much pressure down these files. I mean, these rows. But if you look, I do have a lot of friendly stones in this area, so I wasn't too concerned. And here I played d3, which obviously blocks attack threat, and also the point is that his cap cannot crush this, because then I win by playing c3 up, and that's a road. He plays b4 over to end this threat. I run away, and again my point is that he can't crush this wall, because if he throws his cap, then he must leave a white on b2, and then I can play d3 down and win. But after b2, I'm now dealing with c3 down wins, b2 right wins, and I'm feeling the pressure here. Something's got to give here. I either have to take on f1 or take on a3, and I decided to take on f1. Now this may have been the wrong decision, because in this critical position, I've given up the pin, so he can actually play this move. Throw his cap down and take b and crush b1, and I don't have a road. So this was his one chance to crush b1, and I think he should have taken it. I think had he taken it, I would have been in for a more trying position. I think I was still slightly better, but he can even. But he's threatening to eventually just control the first rank, and with a powerful cap, I could be in trouble here. And also he can simply smash and then run back if he wants, and just reclaim all those flats for himself. So I think he should have done this, but instead he played f2, which was not attack threat immediately. And I think this was perhaps the critical mistake of the game. Although he may have simply missed. Even I sort of, it slipped my mind that I was just undoing the pin with this move. So it may have slipped his mind too. So f2, I realized after he played f2, I breathed a sigh of relief and played f3, so that the threat is back. So he can no longer crush b1. He takes on f1, which is an immediate attack threat by taking c2 with either piece. But I wasn't so sure about this move. On one hand, it does force me to capture, and now I'm forced to capture a3 because, you know, I'm in the same position I was before, except for I can't take f1 anymore. But that f1 stack is very weak and liable to be attacked. So I do take, and he plays f2. F2 was a little bit of a mystery to me at first, but I think his point was that he was going to take f2 so that I couldn't immediately throw a wall on f2, because throwing a wall on f2 was one of my plans. This. Move 23 was perhaps the best move of the game, as it turned out. I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do here, but I knew I wanted to get my cap active. I decided this was a time to get a hard cap. It wasn't too much of a concession in flat count, right? You can see that I have 4, 8, 9, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. But it is black's move. And what's annoying for me is that black always has this move, throw f1 up, right? So I'll show that on the replay because it's a little more involved here. Spoilers. Yeah. Okay. So I was a little bit concerned about seeing this. This is a weakness, and I can do something like this, and perhaps I'm okay, but in certain positions, having my cap placed on f3 is not so good, depending on how play continues. So he probably wouldn't do this immediately. But imagine he has more pressure up here, and my cap is cannot so easily access f3. I always have to worry about this move, where f3 is under his control. This doesn't work because he's got 2 stones on f2. And this would swing the flat count. This would be able to swing the flat count in his favor. It doesn't immediately help him. It's just the same as one capture because he's already got a stone on f2. But also it severs whatever play I have going east-west. So this was a move I was concerned about for the whole game, but ultimately he never played it, which may have been a mistake, but it's hard to say. He never had a great opportunity to play it. So this move. This move is, again, a direct response to me capturing d3. When I captured d3, well, capture is not the right word, but when I, set my cap on d3, I was immediately pressuring c3. He was basically forced to respond this way. So this was completely expected. And now d4. I'm expanding north-south is my main objective, but perhaps I could eventually go east-west as well. And captures. And I wall. Again, he's being more liberal with his captures, and I'm trying to punish him for with the walls. Runs away, which is what I expected, but then I played this. I just took this b2, and this is obviously a very fat stack, and if black can ever get control of this, I could be in trouble. But in this position, it's reasonably impossible. Well, not impossible, but it's hard to see how black ever is able to attack this, right? He can move his capstone over, but I can pin him, and I've got such tremendous play, and he can never really give up a stack that's this strong for me. Because if he crushes the wall, he always has to give up the stack that's below him. So b1, he's starting to threaten things going this way. I put a stop to that. I just decided to take on d1, putting some pressure on f1 and opening up this avenue of attack. c2 makes sense. So basically so that I can't play c2. And it's hard for me to get this vertical threat going when I don't control c2 and I don't have a reasonable way of attacking c2 in the future. c1, obviously, I could take with c1, but then I would give up c1, so it wouldn't be much of a gain here. d2. And he does this take move that I sort of alluded to. And I decided to do this. So I take f1. I sort of put an immediate stop to all of his play on the first rank. I mean, unless of course he runs this way, then there's some play left. But my point was that if he decides to run this way and level the flat count, not sure exactly what it would be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he would actually have a slight flat advantage. But I could eat up all these flats with really no difficulty with the F1 stack, so I wasn't worried about that. He decides to run this way, which is the more aggressive move. And I didn't really look at this before I played my move, but I don't think it can be too scary. After all, I've always got F1, and I've got a friendly on F1 if I ever need support. E2, just continuing my threats here, and my point is that, E2, E1, wait, yeah, E1. And my point is that E1 is always going to be well protected by this stack. And I've actually got some reasonable strength going here. He's going to have to respond to this. He plays this, which is this is perhaps it's a good attack, right? Because it immediately threatens tack, but the problem is that this move, which he might have missed, is so strong that that I don't think that attacking move could be good, because with my cap now on d2, remember E1 is always defended by F1. If he wants to take F2, I can always take back with the cap. He's got no blacks going this way. And this is like a very dangerous lineup of Tinue. B3, I really didn't understand what he was going for with B3. Maybe he wanted control of A3, I'm not really sure. But I played D5 exclam, and now again this Tinue lineup is practically unstoppable. He plays E2 over. I take with the cap. Note at this point that I had in the game I had about 30 seconds left on my clock, so moves like B3 are perhaps more to give me practical problems, because in this position black is already in quite a bit of trouble, so he's sort of got to get me to make a mistake in order to win, which is sort of the state that the black player is perpetually in, but let's not get into that here. Anyway, D5 comes and black is in major trouble. The only response here really is to play this, throw the wall. I guess you can also wall D6, but after C5, C5 is maybe not so good. Wall D6, E6. I mean, you can do this, but that probably loses even faster. This is more resilient here. Essentially now, I don't have that many flats left in the bank. I can sort of just keep making forcing moves, and there's very little he can do. He's forced to play, he plays a wall here. This makes tack because this this E2 stack is tremendously strong now. You know, it's threatening white, white, white here. And I can play E4, and he has to move that. D4. And we're just chasing him all around, and we're going to run out of flats very soon and win the game. One last point, D2 was, I mean, he could just take D2, but my point with D2 was that it prevents him from capturing on B2, because I can throw this stack. I'll show that on the game review. D2. If he tries to crush here, which this is like his only chance of winning, right, is if he crushes B2 from this position. I can do this. Oops. Sorry. Misclick. Black, white, white. White is a road. So that's why I played D2. Even though, of course, he can just take it. But my point is, well, maybe he wouldn't want to leave those behind. Although this wall's already too fat to really do anything. But, you know, he can take this. But I've only got three flats left in my flat bank. And something like this, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you can try to do something like this, but it doesn't really work. I can always respond with this, or probably better, way to move. He's not threatening anything. He can't do anything. And I can just eat these flats back up at my leisure. And because I only have one flat left, he could never challenge this. So D2, but Unsweet saw the writing on the wall. He didn't bite on that. He just played C3. And after some stalling, the game ended. So interesting game. I think it was instructive how Unsweet's handling of the opening is very interesting. Definitely a fighting opening for black, trying to prove that these white stones are not as relevant as his upcoming attack. We both made some inaccuracies and missed some things. But I was fairly happy with how I played this, although I was sort of scared in this opening position that I would lose in a 20 move embarrassment to Unsweet, which I have definitely lost. I have lost in 20 moves or so to Unsweet as white, me as white, which was not a fun position. And that game that I lost, Unsweet also had a hard cap in the center. But in this game, I was able to maintain control fairly well, and at the end of the day, my hard cap prevailed after his hard cap bailed out. And this attack is sort of instructive, but once D5 comes in, this attack just plays itself, and there's no defense for black. So I know I said this was going to be a short analysis, and obviously I lied, and I analyzed every single move, but we don't have too much analysis content on attack yet, so I thought this would be instructive, and I don't know. We'll see if you like it. Sorry about the not amazing audio quality and kind of losing my voice in the last 30 minutes, but hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all later.